Good evening. My name is Thurman Greco, and the name of this program is Let's Live, and it's coming to you from Woodstock, New York. And this evening, our program is about Reiki. And there are four of us here this evening. And the first guest we have is Elise. And Elise is a Reiki practitioner that I trained a couple of years ago. And then we have two guests that are going to receive Reiki. And the plot this evening is that we will talk for a few minutes. Elise and I will, and the two guests. Everybody's going to chat about Reiki, and then we're going to offer Reiki to you two. And then afterwards, we're going to, if we have time, we're going to talk about what happened when you received the Reiki. And the reason that I'm motivated to do this is because so few people really understand what happens in a Reiki session. So I'm hoping to do more of this in the future. So, Elise, would you please let's talk for a minute about your training as a Reiki practitioner. I trained you.
Yes.
And where did we train you?
The West Hurley Library.
At the West Hurley Public Library. And how many people were in that class?
We did the 1 and the 2, and I think it was pretty much the same group that came to both, with maybe, I know what we did. The first group was about between 12 and 15 people, because you only thought that half of that amount signed up, and then you were surprised that night that so many people had.
Yeah, people came out of the woodwork.
Right, exactly.
And the librarian at the West Hurley Public Library is a real jewel, because she could have just said no.
Yes, exactly.
Out the door, and she didn't.
Right.
She really let them come in.
Yeah.
She let them sign their names.
Yeah.
She was there all 3 evenings. So
And she had to get all the paperwork, because you had paperwork set up for 6 or 7, and then
Yeah.
twice the amount.
Yeah, and then she was running the copy machine.
Yeah, she was good.
That woman, she's an amazing person. She's done several classes that I have taught at. And every class has been some kind of a zinger at the beginning. And she's either had to run off extra copies or do all kinds of goofy things, or we had a snowstorm, or she's been working with the computer for Zoom. I mean, it has not been an easy thing for her. You know, Elise, can you move your chair a little closer? If we can get ourselves a little closer for Ellen, so it'll be easier for Ellen. So I would like to ask you, what was the motivation that you had for taking a Reiki class?
My motivation was curiosity. Basically curiosity. I heard the term Reiki, but what was Reiki? So, and I felt, and now I'm on a journey. Curiosity, and now I'm on this Reiki journey. And it's very interesting. I'm finding it so rewarding. And to be perfectly honest with you, being able to do the long distance Reiki during the COVID has really been very beneficial to me. That I felt like with my children and grandchildren, I couldn't see them, but I could send them some kind of healing, some kind of love. And I've been very grateful that I've been able to do that. So thank you.
You know, that's been very interesting to me. You read these stories in the newspaper, and you hear them on the radio, and you see them on the TV about all of these people who cannot be around their children, and they cannot hug their grandchildren. They cannot be. If they were Reiki practitioners, they wouldn't have that feeling at all.
You do have it, but you feel like you're doing something. You
Right,
feel it, yeah.
right.
You do.
And if the kids are little, you tell them, I send you Reiki hugs, and the
Yeah.
children understand.
They do understand it, yes.
You know,
Yes,
so
yes.
there's been a real gap there.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's been a kind of a fun thing that way.
Yeah.
And you had a really interesting thing, because you were connected with me.
Yes.
And you took several sessions of Reiki.
Yes.
But then I feel, now this is what I feel,
Okay.
but you may have a very different view. It was a one-on-one class.
It was a one-on-one class.
Right.
Just you and I, and actually Izzy, my
And
child.
right.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
but there was no human support group, so you didn't have anything to help you carry on.
Correct.
Although I don't think that that's really 100% of the reason. I
It's
know a lot of
Yeah.
people who have taken Reiki in huge classes and they still have not continued on. And sometimes you wonder, you know. And I have finally decided that there are some people who practice Reiki and there are some people who carry Reiki with them. And if you carry Reiki with you all the time, you're it just
Right.
goes with you as part of your environment. It's part of your carrying on, your aura, as it were. And so I am going to be offering a class in the future. You were asking me the other day. I'm going to be offering a class for Reiki practitioners of any level, any whatever. I don't care where you got attuned. I'm very, very open that way, in which we do Reiki for a healthy spine. And it will involve teaching a person how to give Reiki to another person. So when you sign up, you have to sign up a friend too, because you have to teach them. So that is, and I don't know, we were going to do it at the library, but I have come in the last few months, I have taught canine massage therapy, I have taught hand reflexology, and when I realize how hard it is that woman is working just so I can stand up and teach people, I'm thinking, man, this is really not fair. This is not fair at all. There's something wrong with this picture. So I don't know exactly how we're going to. If she agrees, it would be fine. But if she doesn't, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised. It's really hard for her. I mean, because the computer. I don't know. How many of you are familiar with Zoom all the time?
I am.
Little
Yeah.
bit, yeah.
And does
every
it
single day.
and it messes up every time, doesn't it?
I've gotten better at it.
Well, okay. That tells me everything I needed to hear.
Right.
You're saying, well, you limp along.
Now that I've used it for over a year.
Yeah.
It's not that difficult, but it is hard initially.
Yeah. And here is this librarian who was she's self-taught, man. She's out there with that machine all the time. It's really not fair at all. Well, listen, it says that we're 7:20, so I would like for Elise and I to give you two, a seated Reiki session of about 20 to 25 minutes.
Okay.
Is that going to be okay? And then afterwards, we'll talk about the session as you have received it. So, how's it going, Miss Ellen? Okay.
Now, as far as the Reiki's concerned, we can either do a hands-on or hands above. Which would you prefer?
Hands-on is fine.
Okay,
I'm good
all
with
right.
that. Whatever you want. Yeah.
No, I'm
Yeah.
comfortable as long as
Okay,
you're comfortable,
yeah.
so I just,
Oh, that's very interesting. You asked them.
well,
Well, it's COVID.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? I'm just not
well,
her.
and so far I've only done families.
You've always done, you've just done your family.
Yeah, because of the COVID.
Listen, your
Yeah.
family can be they can be
Yeah.
very, don't touch me. I mean,
Right, especially certain ages and gender, which I
Yeah.
understand.
Right.
But
Yeah.
they won't let me touch them, so it's okay.
So is Reiki sometimes done hands-on and sometimes not, or is it typically done hands-on, but you have?
You've asked a big question there, and that's a very good question. Because I'm a massage therapist first, I have always been hands-on.
Yep.
And as I work in my day job now, I go up and touch everyone
Yeah.
on the shoulder. I mean, I touch them. And people think, well, she's a touchy-feely old lady. Well, I may be touchy-feely, but I'm doing Reiki. And so touching is something that I do. And I have learned, Reiki Jinkaido from a very interesting man in Virginia, and he was very hands-off. And so, but I feel, now this is my opinion, you find out so much about what is happening when you actually touch. You can feel you can feel the Reiki.
Yeah.
But I am sure that there are classes out there where people do not touch.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes when you don't touch, you can feel the energy.
Sure.
And sometimes the
Yeah.
grandkids like to feel the energy. And-
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
that makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay, but it's hands-on.
hands-on. Okay. So the purpose of this session is to make available, so this is our intention, is to make available a Reiki session for anyone who happens to tune into the television or later is on YouTube or whatever. For those of us who are interested in Reiki and do not know what it is, would you feel comfortable if I were to talk us through it?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, the first thing we do is establish our intention, and then I raise my hands, and you want to do the symbols, so we do the chokore, and then we do the saheki, and then we do the Hon Shanzai Shonin, and then we do the chokore again. And we begin with the hands. And we offer traditionally, and I say these things, I say, well, it's traditional. There are so many different ways to offer Reiki to people that I don't know anymore whether it's traditional or not. And when I first came up here from Virginia, there were several different types of Reiki that I practiced 9 different types of Reiki, and there's only one real type that has come up here with me, and that's the Usui Reiki. And I was taught that you do three positions on a person's head. And so I really like when you do 3 positions on a person's head, there are so many ways that you can do the head. And it's so important. So I like to just clap my hands at the top of the head for a few moments. And I like to feel what I feel. And the heads are so beautiful to be around. And it's just such a wonderful thing to do. And I feel gratitude when I come around and I offer Reiki and I'm up around someone's head. I do feel gratitude. And after the first session, Ellen, can you sit in that chair over there, darling?
Okay.
And then I like to come around with my hand behind the ear, the thumbs behind the ear, and I like to have my fingers right at the jaw. And so you go from the top of the head, which is the 7th chakra, and now you're down around the throat chakra. And this is a wonderful place to be. And as you go through the different positions on a person's head, you feel something different in every place. It's a different place. And then sometimes when you do Reiki, do you see things?
It depends. I do. The last time, which was Wednesday, when I did the shoulders, and like I said, I have all the young family. I felt like it was like infinity of shoulders, people on holding each other's their hands on each other's shoulders since time began. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. It was like being in a funhouse mirror and just layers and layers of the same people holding each other's shoulders, like generations.
Do you feel that holding each other's shoulders is a timely thing now?
I feel like it's a comfort at this time, so that seemed appropriate.
I know that the jawbones are particularly special. We don't talk about them much in Reiki, but I do know from other modalities of body work that the jawbones are very, very special, and I have a tendency sometimes to move my fingers up, and then I will take one hand and put it on the forehead, and the other hand will go down on the occipital ridge. And this is very, very powerful. This is, and if you can only, when you do a seated position, you're looking at 20 to 30 minutes max, really. And a lot of times when you offer Reiki to a seated person or a person who is reclining somewhere, that this is a temporary situation. You may not have but 5 or 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. Go right for the forehead and right for the occipital ridge. You just go right there. Just go for it. Because this is where you really are at some power places. And you can feel and see and hear and touch so much. And like you said, you're sometimes in touch with infinity. Then we go down to the shoulders. And there's many ways to do the shoulders. A lot of times you can do the shoulders with your hands right along the spine there, and the other times your hands are out to the side. A lot of times that depends upon where the person is, what's going on around you. Years ago, I was in Florida. I've forgotten where, but it was some kind of a evening gathering along the beach, and there were just thousands of people there. And there was some young kid that had a massage table and with rock music, and he was offering Reiki to people. And what he did was he gave them earphones so that they would not hear the loud music. And he was placing his hands on their shoulders. And they were responding. It was a wonderful thing. You would think, not in this crowd, this cannot happen. But that's not how he felt at all. And it was working for him. So we do this. We're at the shoulders. And then we go right along. And this is where we come to what do we touch and what do we don't touch. Mm-hmm. I feel very comfortable touching the back. And I also I feel comfortable with the hand on the thymus. Okay. But you don't have to. You can touch the back and then you hold the hand, the thymus away. And whether you're 1/2 inch or 1 inch or 2 inches away is up to you. It's not, and did that matter to you when you were studying? Were you worried about that?
No, I was not worried about it until recently with everything in the news, and it made me
think about it.
You
know what? You don't want to touch, especially if you are you in an open room?
Well, I'm pretty much at home. Yeah.
Then if you have the windows open,
right, yeah.
Then, things are going around.
Okay.
And
I'm still learning, so.
Do you ever stop learning?
No.
No.
Sure.
I've never stopped learning. I know that when I studied Reiki, none of us ever mentioned the journey. Mm-hmm. And you said the word. You said the word. That was like, we didn't talk about that.
Yeah, it is a journey.
And, well, I don't know why we just didn't mention it, but we didn't. Okay, so we've got the shoulders. The shoulders are very important. And you can also realize that there are places that you just don't have to go. You can follow your intuition so well. And I say this laughingly. When I studied massage therapy, if I, for example, was giving a full body massage in class and all of a sudden I realized I had forgotten to do one arm, I expected fire to come down. I expected all kinds of things to happen, and I expected my future certificate to go up in flames at that moment. It's not that way with Reiki. If you feel that you need to work on somebody's elbow, then you go for it. It's what does the person need at this time. So we do this, and it's also what's available. If you can't reach that thumb or that elbow or that knee, then you don't worry about it. Because the Reiki's going to do what it's supposed to do anyway. Now, there is a real nice trick about seated Reiki. When you put your hands here and then you have your hand behind, that you've got both sides. You are doing some really powerful work there. Now, we're going to go down here. We're going to go down here. One hand is behind and one hand is in front. And are you feeling anything? Are you really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's wonderful. Then you'll have something to talk about.
Pressure's on.
If I can remember after
I know, we all listen. Now, I have just given you a couple of minutes here. This was very powerful. This was very powerful. And now we're going to go to the hip pillars. This is the first chakra. So this is extremely powerful here. And you just go right to the side. Now you may be moved to do this. You may be moved to stay here. Mm-hmm. You can, if you're moved to stay here for 15, 20 minutes, it's okay. This is, it's all right. Then we go down here to the knees. And this is really, really important. Because now, as we're working on the knees here, and we're getting down, we've now gotten to the first chakra, and we're down to the knees now, and there are other chakras here, but we're at the knees. We're coming down to the feet. And, the feet, that's the command center, because that's what carries us through life, is our feet. So we're going down the knees, and then we're just going down the feet. And you put your hands along the ankles. And then you put your hands along the feet. And you're on the command center. And we have to remember here, we have to say this, that if you are not comfortable with your hands down that far, if you can't go that far, you don't have to. It's important that you offer Reiki in such a way that you are comfortable. So that's an important thing. And then we come back, and we're going to finish off the session. Now, so, does anybody can we start with Elise? Elise, tell me what you found.
I felt energy. I could feel a lot of energy up here.
What does that mean?
I guess it means it's working.
But were you?
Oh, I see. In my hand.
Yeah.
The energy, like.
I felt tingling.
Okay, exactly.
Okay.
Yes, tingling, right, yes.
Okay.
So I did feel tingling.
Did it come up your arms?
It comes out of my hands, just kind of.
It's concentrated in your hands.
Yes, it comes straight
Okay.
out of my hands.
Okay.
Did you feel that or not?
I think the most when your hands were on my
Mhm.
occipital and forehead.
Okay.
I mean, that felt almost, I could feel the energy, I could feel heat,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of a release, I guess.
Okay.
Hey,
Yeah.
that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt the heat, and I felt energy here, but more heat here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, when you do distance Reiki, how do you set that up?
I use my husband.
Very interesting.
Yes. I use him. I just did another session on Wednesday, and we did it a little bit different. What I did is I told everybody I'm sending you a long distance Reiki, and because the week before I did it, and I said to him, I'm sending Reiki to all the family and whoever needs it, and he didn't get like a lot of energy from it, so I felt like, all right, I'm jipping him. So I sent out a text to everybody, I'm doing a Reiki session, and his session was very powerful this week. So I don't know if it's because I let everybody else know and he could concentrate, or it was just going to be one of those weeks that it was powerful. I don't know. So it was interesting.
How often do you do that?
I usually, when I have trouble sleeping at night, I'll just send out Reiki to everybody, put me back to sleep. But if I'm doing like a full-on session, I try to do it once a week.
Do you send out the Reiki so that it goes, like when I do distance Reiki, I will, and I have done this for years, I will send Reiki to a person that has requested.
Okay.
And if that person refuses the Reiki, then I send it on to the women and children in Iraq.
Okay.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I do.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this whole permission thing. Like I said, I'm new to it, and so what I do is I set an intention, and my kids and grandchildren and my kids' spouses all know I'm doing this, and the grandkids all know I'm doing it. But then I ask, like, from first responders or people that are giving COVID shots, or like any. With the year we've had, anybody that needs it.
Okay, so you do send it on.
I do.
You do.
I
So
do.
that I think too, you said you sent it once and it didn't go very good, but then the second time you did it. Well, the second time you did it, the people had a chance to learn from the first session. So then you did the second session and it was more powerful. This is the teaching, one of the teachings that we get from Feldenkrais. I don't know if you all know about Feldenkrais.
Yep.
Feldenkrais says that if you're teaching the one arm to go up like this, then while you're teaching this arm to go up like this, the other arm is learning. So that is the same philosophy that I use with Reiki. Do you do Feldenkrais?
I don't do it, but I learned a lot about it many years ago.
Did you really? 25 years ago, I did not take a course in Feldenkrais because I said it was too old. I didn't think I was going to live long enough to finish the course. so that was a long time ago, But Feldenkrais is, to me, is a fabulous thing to learn. And I recently blogged about that because I'm talking about exercise as going along with diet. So what did you guys learn in this session? What did you feel, hear, see?
I felt different things in different places.
Okay.
When you had, I closed my eyes because I wanted to just feel it and not do any eye stuff. I think you had one hand here and one hand back here
Yes.
at one point. And I could feel a lot of energy during that time. Then if I remember. I think you had your hands on both sides of my shoulders, and it was quite warm. That space was very warm, all kind of around that area. So those were the things that I really noticed that were really obvious to me. Besides, it's kind of a general, almost like cells in my body were okay. Does it make sense?
Oh, yeah.
like it was all kind of like getting in order or something. I don't know how to describe it.
But you were talking about the cells.
Yeah.
So when you were talking about the cells, did you feel like the work was on a cellular level, or was that just something that, or was that just a word that you used?
No, that's what the feeling was, that it was on a cellular level. But I don't really know what was happening. It just felt like something like the different cells in my body were sort of like, I don't know.
Do you think it was necessary that you know what was happening?
No,
No.
I don't think it is necessary.
I don't.
Yeah.
No.
I don't think you have to have even a general understanding of what's going on. I mean, I think that if you're just open to the experience.
I mean, I don't really know what was happening.
But it's not important.
I don't
It's
think
important
so.
for me personally, but I think generally, I think people, I think there are many, many people out there that don't actually need to know the intricacies of this to benefit.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to know what was happening. I would like to understand it on a more intellectual level, but I don't think it's necessary to know in order to have
To
it
benefit.
do something.
Yeah.
There is a man who now, I think he lives in Greece now. And he's lived in the United States, and he's lived in Japan, and he's lived in several different places in Europe. And the last I heard from him, and I didn't hear from him personally, I heard from him in a blog. Arjav Petter, Petter. And I always mention Arjav Petter. He is a 20th century person. You know, he's probably, I guess he may be my age. He went to, it was said about Usui that nothing was written about what he did. And it was also said that Usui had clinics, and if people were sick, they could go to these clinics and they would receive Reiki and he would work with them. So those two things to him did not make a lot of sense. So he went to Japan and he started digging around, and he got what he felt were some original notes that were written. And he translated them and he published them. And they are still available. And he practiced a thing called, I can't even remember what it's called now, but it was not Reiki Jin Kaido, it was just something else, but it was a spiritual Reiki. And they meet, the practitioners of this particular Reiki meet every 2 or 3 years, and it's a worldwide group, so they meet at different places throughout the globe. And they practice this Reiki within the group, and then in their own individual communities and things for the rest of the year. But when they are together as a group, a worldwide group, they practice for spiritual healing. But the notes that he found from Usui Reiki are very specific. And there he took pictures. He used his wife as a model, and he took pictures of where to put your hands if you're going to, for example, if a person has a kidney stone, this is what you do. If they have, broken knee, this is what you do. And so there was a lot there in that little book. So that if you are interested in learning what happens, you can get this book and you can read it. Now, he also wrote a lot about giving Reiki and how it affects us. And he said, for example, now, the Reiki in my hands, I can still feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that if it gets beyond your hands, that it is stronger. And that if it gets up as far as your elbow, that you need to lift your hands up off the person.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when he says that, what does that say to you about where your hand was?
So there's
It
a lot
was
of energy coming.
It was in a place that really needed to be.
But does it say that you were touching this person?
Not
Or-
necessarily.
Not necessarily. Okay, so it didn't really make any
Right.
difference whether or not you touched the person or not.
Right.
What was important was that you broke the connection. Okay, that was one of the things that he did, and people, you don't hear an awful lot of that in Reiki. You don't hear Reiki practitioners talking about that, and you don't hear Reiki practitioners talking about him at all. And he is worldwide. So I'm sharing that piece of information. Did you have any questions that surfaced when you were receiving your Reiki?
I don't think I did. No.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Did you feel calm?
Yeah, I did feel calm.
Very much.
Very,
Yeah.
that's good. How about you? Did you feel it? Did any questions surface for you?
Well, I'm still new, so I'm
Okay.
hoping I'm doing it right.
You know what? I'm still new too. I'm serious. I am still new too.
I'm a work in progress.
I-
I'm just hoping that I'm getting it.
I am
Correct.
definitely a work in progress. There is no question about it. Definitely. And I think I will be a work in progress
Forever.
for the duration. Yes. So did you feel any questions? Did you?
No, but I'm just hoping that I am doing it right. That's usually my mindset, that I'm getting it right, so.
You're hoping that you did it right?
Yeah.
I don't think you could do it wrong.
Okay.
Have you ever received any Reiki in which you felt like the person really messed up?
This is the only time I've had Reiki, so
No,
I
I
can't.
haven't.
Yeah, I think I would know. Yeah, I think you would know. Because there's a lot of energy going on there.
Yeah,
How
but I
about
don't think
you?
there's a wrong way. Yeah, I'm in line with you, Thurman. I don't think there's a wrong way to do it. I don't think that. No, I haven't ever. But it's only been with you, so until today.
If you were given an opportunity to learn Reiki with another person, would you learn it?
You mean advance further?
Or the same thing all over again with another person?
I don't think so.
Really?
No, I think I'd want to learn with you more.
That's interesting. How about you, Elise?
With another teacher?
Why do you need another teacher?
Well, the reason I say that is because, Karen and I get on the phone, and we're kind of stream of consciousness.
Right.
And so she was talking about looking up Reiki classes. And I found a Reiki class somewhere here in the Hudson Valley.
Right.
And it sounded really good until I read the price tag, and then I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Yeah.
But once you commit yourself to go to the class, would that, I don't know. I think I would.
You would?
I studied Reiki under everybody and anybody
Right.
that would let me sign up.
Mm-hmm.
And I love to tell that story.
Mm-hmm.
I almost got thrown out of a Reiki class because of that. It was Reiki Jinkaido, and by then I had learned 7 or 8 different kinds of Reiki. And I heard about his class, and I signed up for his class, and I went to the class, and everybody was telling them these reasons why they were in this class. And this was Reiki 1, and they were all telling these fantastic reasons why they were taking. And I was so outclassed, I couldn't believe it. And so I just said, well, what the hell, I'll just tell them the truth, I'll let it all hang out. And I said, well, I love to take Reiki classes, and I managed to sign up for every Reiki class I find, and somehow I managed to get together the money to take it. And the man about came unglued. I had made a travesty of his Reiki class. And oh, it was awful. It was awful. I finally called my husband at morning break, and I said, look, you've got to go to Trader Joe's, and you've got to get some chocolate cookies, and you've got to get them over here by lunchtime so I can get to the afternoon class. And he didn't understand, and he brought over this gigantic chocolate cake. And there was no forks and no spoons or nothing, but we had chocolate cake. It was awful. But, I mean, what about it? Would you have a chance to learn?
Well, Thurman, this is your thirst for knowledge, for different experiences and looking for as much as you can take in. There are those of us who, if we had the time, would absolutely do that. But thankfully, you are the teacher that I've taken these classes from, and you have gone to the trouble of learning everything you can as you've gone along. So guess what? We benefit from that.
So it's okay to have the same teacher.
Well, as long as the teacher is you, yeah.
I know that there were some nuns in Northern Virginia at one of the universities, Catholic women's universities, that were teaching Reiki, and there were people, and I never was able to schedule an appointment, but they did teach Reiki, and there were people who would go and take classes because they were very different in how they taught it. So, do you have any questions for future? I mean, when you think about your future with Reiki, have you ever been motivated in some way to ask questions about Reiki?
I've done a lot of reading on Reiki, in fact, books from you. I guess my main focus is more animal oriented, my dogs, and that may sound horrible.
No.
We're here talking about people and the COVID pandemic, but I find that avenue more appealing to me with animals.
I think that is, I think that's a wonderful thing, because so many people have animals and they don't have any outlet. And the only opportunity that you have to have a healing experience with your dog is to go to a regular vet and have your dog receive acupuncture. And that's good, but
Right.
It would be better if you didn't have to do it in that environment.
Right.
And it would be better if you could feel like you had some control over what you were doing.
Absolutely.
And to have an experience in which you not only work with your animals, but other people's animals. That's a wonderful thought.
Well,
Maybe there are some Reiki practitioners out there that would be willing to go to the dogs for the rest of us.
Yeah, but you have practiced Reiki on animals yourself, so
Yes.
that's how we met.
But I'm kind of eclectic. I'll do Reiki I'll do Reiki if you have a,
A butterfly.
a piece of furniture, whatever it is. I'll do Reiki on anything and everything. But I'm just thinking, wouldn't it be nice if somebody who does Reiki out there and all of a sudden realized that, hey, I could do Reiki on other people's dogs and cats and goldfish and parakeets, and wouldn't that be lovely?
Right, there are people out there doing it.
I haven't.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in this
Sure.
area.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Especially if you could combine that with animal communication,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
That would be a really wonderful combination.
Right.
Well, what if you were to, what kind of an impact do you think Reiki has had with coronavirus?
Well, I think, she has done tremendous work, and with her family, it's been directed at her family long distance, but she also projects it on. And I'm sure there are many practitioners doing the same thing, during this pandemic. And I'm sure you're one of them, Thurman.
I think it's unknown at this point.
I don't know. I mean,
I haven't read about it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's where I'm at. I haven't read about it.
Where would you read about something like that?
Well, you could read about it in, there are some, holistic magazines
Right.
that you find at the, the organic food store.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, if you could write it well enough, I think it could make it into a place like the New York Times. They are interested in covering the coronavirus in any form or fashion that they can find.
Well, you are a writer.
Not that good, girl. I have learned that there are certain things I can do and other things I just cannot do. It's not in the cards yet. And I have had to understand that I am not this talented Stephen King writer. I am just not.
That would be fiction. So
But I just haven't. I can do certain things, but that's not one of them. But I may decide a few months, months down the pipe to try it again. But I am really hopeful that we can have Reiki come out of the closet a little bit more. Do you still feel that you are in the closet?
Well, with the circumstances of the past year, and the other, I relocated up here. I don't know many people, so it's not like I can give it to many people because I don't know many people at all. So I'm limited in, if somebody wanted it, I'd gladly give it to them, but I don't know that many people that I could offer it to. But I would love to use it for people that need it. Right before the coronavirus started, I was invited to a woman's house, and there were several of us there, and we didn't really know the other people. And so she was, and these kind of groupings are not, I just think we don't have very many of these type of social things very often. And there she had on the coffee table some Reiki books. And right away, I realized this woman is trying to tell the people that she knows that she does Reiki.
Right.
And she is scared to death to say the words. And this was like less than 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still there.
Mm-hmm.
We're still kind of in the closet. And if you cannot mention Reiki to a physician,
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
that you can.
Not successfully.
No,
Yeah.
it's not good. You're doing a real, it's a stretch. And I can remember being in the waiting room of my ENT's office. And I was sitting there, waiting to go in. And there was another woman that was sitting there, a nice looking woman. And all of a sudden I realized that there were just tears coming down her eyes. And I didn't quite know what to do. So I've forgotten what I said, but I said something to her. And then what she did was, she was working over Northern Dutchess Hospital. There's that old mansion over there that has, she was in there somewhere. And she said that she had been trying to take care of her problems, and that by coming over across the street to the nurse's office. Over, actually it was she was over there in Linebeck, but he was in Red Hook. By coming over there to Red Hook, to his office, that she just felt like she had failed so terribly. And I just told her, I said, that's not true. That is not true. And I realized there was so much anguish in this woman. And I just don't feel that sense of failure when I go to a doctor. You know?
Yeah.
Do you meet people who feel that sense of failure?
Not lately.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a positive thing.
Yeah.
That's a positive thing. I think we have. Are there things about Reiki that you would like to know but do not?
A lot.
Okay, such as?
I know nothing, really. I know nothing about Reiki. This is all I know. And this has made me want to know a lot more.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's so much to know that I couldn't say a specific question at this point. I would like to know how you start. I would like to know what happens with you when you do it. Where did you learn? How did you learn? I mean, I have a lot of questions now that I didn't, just wasn't part of my consciousness before.
That's very interesting on the strength of a 15-minute session. Wow. Well, then what that tells me is that we need more introductory conversations.
I mean, as a person who's somewhat versed in alternative, I was curious about and has learned a lot about alternative kinds of therapies and such. I'm curious about it, and I'm sort of surprised that I really never knew anything about it before. I mean, I don't feel like I do now either, but I've certainly heard of it, but it's one of those sort of nebulous things that I've heard of Reiki, but I didn't really know even what it was.
Well, I think that's pretty standard. I think there are a lot of people who don't know what it is.
Yeah, I think that is.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think that most of the people that take it, I know when I took a Reiki class, I had never received a Reiki session at all.
Yeah.
I went to another weekend conference or whatever, and that was 25 people, and 24 of them were all somehow connected to Reiki, and there I was. And so that was all I knew about it, was that at the introduction, they were all Reiki people, and I wasn't. And so I went back home, and I tried to find out something about Reiki.
What made you go to that first one?
Oh, it was animal communication. I went up to, it was much wilder than Reiki. I went up to Spring Farm Cares in Clinton, New York. And that was 4 women and 400 acres. And 400 and some odd, maybe 500 or 600 cats. I never seen so many cats in my life. And they were all doing animal communication, and they had horses and cows and goats and llamas and all kinds of things. And they were all, as you know, you introduce yourself, and they were all. There was Reiki came out of every mouth except mine. And then I went back and I started asking people, I'm looking for a Reiki teacher. And they were saying, huh? And finally I found this woman she said, oh, you don't want to learn that. Mm-hmm. And I said, why? And she said, well, I learned it. And do you know, you can heal people and they don't even want to be healed. And I thought, okay. And she believed it, And I met a woman who had paid $10,000 to learn Reiki
Oh,
under the Hawaiian woman that came to this country and taught it. She had studied under her. And that's why I teach it for a lot less. I think everybody should. So do you have something to say?
No, I've always been of the mind that maybe we already know all this. We're born with this knowledge. And some people are more willing to tap into it than others. And I don't necessarily think that it's always something that you have to take a class and learn how to do, it this way, which is what you say. I mean, you can't do it a wrong way. So I think that most people are born with this knowledge, honestly.
I agree. There are a lot of people in classes that say, I have been doing this. I just want to know what it is.
Yeah.
And so what they want is a structure.
Right.
They don't want to, they're not going to learn anything. They're just going to get a structure, which is good.
Yeah.
That tells us, and I think mankind has been doing this for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
We have 5 minutes. Well, we have 5 minutes.
Well, I think about back to the sessions when I would bring my dogs into you, Thurman, and you could tell. I mean, just from their actions, if they wanted to receive Reiki. It was so obvious. In their body language. It seems to me that it would be harder when it's a person to tell. Are they really ready? For the session. Even if somebody, calls up and says, hey, I want a session, is their mind clear? Are they, in the right space? But I guess ultimately that doesn't matter. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts on that is that most of the people who come in for sessions are not ready.
Yeah.
And that it takes months.
Right.
Especially if it's massage or something that is, even though Reiki is far more intimate than massage, people are scared to death of it.
Right.
And so you may offer body work to somebody for a year before they're finally ready.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to get them ready.
Animals are so much easier.
Oh yeah.
well, they're so direct.
They're grounded, they're balanced, they're all these things.
They're not doing all
Not as
the intellectual stuff.
Well, I think some of them are, but I think the difference is that most animals know why they're here.
Right.
And they know why they were born. And they know, or they're hoping that they have a job that they're going to be able to do. And humans probably do know, but by the time they're 6 months old, forget it.
Right.
I just don't think they do. It's all been forgotten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think probably 5 to 6 months, and I'm probably the only person on the planet that believes this, but I believe that by 5 or 6 months they've forgotten all this stuff. And not only that, they have figured out how to succeed in life. They have figured out how to negotiate. They have figured out how to
Get what they want.
Yeah, they've learned it all. And then 6 months, hey, it's all done. Are we through, my dear? I think we are through.
We have about 3 minutes.
Well, I thank you so very, very much for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thank you.
This was wonderful. I hope to do this again. And I am looking forward to having this out on YouTube. So would you like to announce your name?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Elise,
Tracy.
Abby?
And I'm Thurman. And this is Let's Live from Woodstock, New York. And once again, I thank you very, very much.